Chapter 12. People Power. There is one additional question I would like to bring to my readers' attention. At the moment, you are engaged in the process of creating a people's strategy for the future development of the Russian state. Part of this strategy is being published in issues of the Almanac. Part appears on the Anastasia site on the internet. As I see it, the overwhelming majority of the materials is extremely interesting. However, there is one question about power and authority that has not yet been sufficiently illuminated. Yet it is a most important question. I invite you to join me in contemplating it. For starters, I'd like to share my own reasonings with you. Power often changes. Just over the past 100 years, people have lived under the Tsar, the communists, and a series of democratic rulers. Power gets changed, but life does not get rearranged for the better. Why? Do bad people always come to power? Hardly. It is more likely that the current system makes any politicians who get elected to power ineffective pen pushers when it comes to solving the problems involved in any real betterment of people's lives. Take our legislative assemblies over the past recent parliamentary terms. It seems that we vote for normal, family-type people, and then once they're in power, they come up with, to put it mildly, some rather strange legislation. Why? Perhaps, in the process of coming to power, they fall into another world, a world isolated from the people. An apartment in the parliamentary living quarters, a car equipped with its own flashing light on top, a private office where the public is denied entry, along with all sorts of special perks and vanity of vanities. Anastasia's grandfather suggested an interesting piece of draft legislation concerning deputies of the State Duma. They should each be granted a piece of land and definitely live in a community built on that land, right out among the people. A law faculty graduate in Ukraine named Tatiana Borodina has drafted a bill to this effect, and I think it is worth reproducing its major clauses here in this book, so that my readers can pass on the proposal to their own elected representatives in legislative assemblies at all levels. Moreover, I call upon my readers to be sure to take part in regional and federal elections, but to vote in only those candidates who live in their own kin's domains. But is it merely a passport stamp that defines someone as a Russian citizen? In many cases, a candidate on the ballot has Russian citizenship and a Moscow residence permit, but has a fashionable domain located in another country. Is he going to be mindful of the needs of ordinary Russian people? Most probably his thoughts will be oriented in a completely different direction. If a candidate has his own little motherland, his family domain in Russia, and lives there among Russian citizens, his work can be expected to bring benefit to those citizens and to the motherland as a whole. This much is becoming clear to many people. Students are even beginning to draft laws to assist the legislators. Heading: A Law of Russia on Family Communities created by Russian People's Deputies on all levels, and it's a draft. The law defines the legal, social and economic provisions for the creation and maintenance of family communities and family domains on the part of Russian People's Deputies, thereby guaranteeing the right of Russian citizens, as proclaimed in Russia's constitution, to hold land as the foundation for the wealth of the nation. The law is aimed at the creation of favourable working conditions for Russian People's Deputies, conducive in the development, drafting and adoption of federal legislation, as well as guaranteeing their maximum contact with voters. Article 1. Basic terms and concepts used in the law. Certain specific terms used in the law are defined as follows. Bullet point. Family domain. A plot of land from 1 to 1.3 hectares in size, granted to age of majority Russian citizens for their lifetime use with the right of inheritance, with no tax obligations in respect to the land or its produce. Bullet point, family community. A centre of population organised on the principles of local self-government, consisting of family domains as well as socio-cultural and community facilities. Bullet point, lifetime use. Unconditional ownership and use of a plot of land, free of charge and in perpetuity. Bullet point, living fence. A hedge consisting of trees and shrubs planted around the perimeter of a family domain or a family community. Article 2. Legislation on family domains and family communities. The procedures involved in granting a Russian People's Deputy an allotment of land for the creation of a family community, as well as the definition of the legal status of family domains and family communities and their functions, are all governed by the Russian Constitution, the Russian Land Code. This law, the Russian law on family domains and family communities, as well as other applicable laws. Article 3. Basic principles of legislation governing family communities. The creation of family communities by Russian People's Deputies is subject to the following basic principles. A. Compliance with the law. B. The setting of conditions for the implementation by all Russian citizens of their right to hold land as the foundation for the wealth of the nation. C. The principle that ownership and use of the plot of land granted for the creation of a family domain shall be free of charge, unconditional, and in perpetuity. D. Exemption of the owner of a family domain from paying off of taxes on the sale of produce grown or goods produced on said family domain. E. The creation of one family community by one Russian People's Deputy of the current parliamentary term. F. Other applicable principles. Article 4. Purview of the law. The purview of this law covers Russian People's Deputies at all levels of government who are elected in accordance with electoral laws, as well as age of majority Russian citizens who have expressed a desire to live in a family community organised on the principles set forth in this law. Article 5. Granting an allotment of land to a Russian People's Deputy for the creation of a family community. 1. Each Russian People's Deputy serving a current or future term, within a year from the date of his election, shall be granted an allotment of land at least 150 hectares in size, whereon to establish a family community. Thereinafter, land allotment. 2. Upon election, as a Russian People's Deputy, under the proportional system from a political parties or a political alliances candidates list in a nationwide election, the successful candidate shall be granted a land allotment in a region of Russia of his choosing. Upon election, as a Russian People's Deputy by a majority of voters in a single representative electoral district, the successful candidate shall be granted a land allotment on the territory of the district where he is elected. 3. A single family community shall not be created by two or more Russian People's Deputies. Neither shall two or more Russian People's Deputies be permitted to live in the same family community during the same term of office. 4. The land allotment is granted as a single parcel of land, including any water resources thereon, from properties belonging to the state or already held communally. Land may also be expropriated from people making full-time use of it and transferred to a Russian People's Deputy for the creation of a family community. 5. If required, land may be purchased from property owners for community needs, in which case the property owner must be given a minimum of a year's notice in writing by the respective decision-making body and must also give his own consent to the sale. The purchase price is to be determined by an expert's assessment of the land's monetary value, which is to be carried out in accordance with the methodologically established by the federal cabinet. 6. A plot of land recommended for inclusion in the land allotment for the creation of a family community by a Russian People's Deputy, but which is in the possession of a physical or legal person, may, with the agreement of the property owner, be exchanged for another plot of land of equal value, either in the same region or in another region of Russia, depending on the property owner's preference. 7. Russian citizens who own plots of land or shares in real individually registered plots of land adjacent to the territory of a proposed family community have the right to reassign their properties without monetary payment for the purposes of creating a family community by a Russian People's Deputy, and receive in return a plot of land within said community whereon to create a family domain for their lifetime use. 8. A Russian citizen who owns virtual shares in communal, not individually registered plots of land, has the right to transfer his shares, either wholly or in part, no less than 1 hectare in size, for the purpose of creating a family community by a Russian People's Deputy, and receive in return a plot of land within said community, whereon to create a family domain for his lifetime use. Article 6. Land composition in family communities. 1. The land in a family community is comprised of the following types of plots. Bullet point, land plots for the creation of a family domain. Bullet point, land plots for the creation of family domains on the part of children of a Russian People's Deputy. No more than 2 plots per community. 2. Land plots reserved for socio-cultural and community purposes are designated in accordance with the overall plan of the family community. The aggregate of such plots is not to exceed 7% of the total area of the community. The said plots are under the jurisdiction of the local council of the said family community. 3. The remaining portion of the land allotment is to be divided into plots of land for the creation of family domains of no less than 1 hectare each. The size may be extended to 1.3 hectares depending on the peculiarities of the terrain or other pertinent factors. 4. Between all land plots, walkways must be created, no less than 3 or 4 metres wide. Each plot owner has the right to plant a living fence around the perimeter of his family domain. 5. On plots of land designated for the creation of a family domain, Russian citizens have the right to plant trees and shrubs, including those of the forest variety, to create artificial reservoirs, construct houses and outbuildings, and erect ancillary structures and other facilities provided principles of good neighbourliness are observed. Article 7. Order of distribution of land plots designated for the creation of family domains among Russian citizens. 1. In the proposed family communities, the Russian People's Deputies have the right to be the first to select for themselves 1 land plot for the creation of a family domain for their lifetime use with right of inheritance. 2. Each child of a Russian People's Deputy with a family of his own has the right to receive a land plot for the creation of a family domain for his lifetime use. 3. It is mandatory that 1 or 2 land plots in the family community be granted to refugees or to children from orphanages. 4. Russian People's Deputies, at their discretion, have the right to grant to Russian citizens of their choosing up to 30% of the remaining land plots, whereon said citizens are to create their own family domains. 5. The remaining land plots should be given to Russian citizens belonging to a variety of social classes: entrepreneurs, social workers, pensioners, representatives of the creative intelligentsia, military personnel, etc. Land plots are to be distributed among Russian citizens on the basis of a lottery conducted openly at a general meeting of future residents of each family community. Article 8. Local councils of family communities. 1. The local council of each family community comprises those living in said community, united by the fact of their permanent residence within the boundaries of said community, which constitutes a self-contained administrative territorial entity. 2. The local council of the family community has the right to create a representative organ of local self-government, namely the Family Community Council, whose members are drawn exclusively from among the residents of the said community. 3. Russian People's Deputies are prohibited from standing for election or being elected to the Family Community Council. In cases where a Russian People's Deputy is elected to a Family Community Council, their election shall be declared null and void. 4. The procedures for setting up local self-government are regulated by the bylaws of the local council of the family community, hereinafter bylaws, which said council has the right to adapt at one of its meetings or by a local referendum. The bylaws must be registered within the district office of the Ministry of Justice. Article 9. Status of land plots in respect to creating a family domain. 1. Plots of land designated for the creation of family domains are granted for lifetime use with the right of inheritance only to the citizens of Russia. It is forbidden to grant land plots for family domains to citizens of foreign countries or to stateless persons, except those who have been granted legal refugee status, but no more than 2 such families are permitted per family community created by a Russian People's Deputy. I don't know how much time I had spent walking around while Anastasia's grandfather familiarised himself with the contents of the documents I had brought with me, when all of a sudden I heard a loud and raucous outburst of laughter, which sounded not at all like that of an old man. He was still laughing when I dashed over to him. "That's rich! Oh, that really makes me laugh. Thank you, Vladimir. And to think I didn't want to get into these at first. But now that you are into them, what's so funny? After all, this is a most serious situation and an extremely complicated one." "Extremely complicated for whom?" Grandfather asked. "For me and for my readers wishing to build domains Anastasia talked about." Quite possibly, in uttering these words, I might have sounded irritated and hurt. Grandfather stopped laughing, looked at me intently, and replied quietly and seriously, "To this day, I cannot understand why my granddaughter would have anything to do with you, let alone bear children with you. Only don't be mad at this old man, Vladimir. Maybe I don't get it, which means others too may not get it. But it's possible that in this not getting it lies a great truth. And so I don't have any bad feelings toward you, and I don't condemn my granddaughter. On the contrary, I'm very excited about what's been achieved." "But is there anything specific you have to say about the contents of these documents?" "I've already said it. I'm excited about what's been achieved." "By whom?" "By my granddaughter. But I was asking you about what I'd written." Grandfather looked first at the packet of documents and then silently and intently at me before replying. "I really can't say, Vladimir, just how necessary your appeal to the public really is. Maybe it is indeed important for them. As I see it, what I read simply confirms that even back 10 years ago my granddaughter foresaw all these ups and downs, and long ago everything that seems to be working against you, she's turned into something beneficial." "How can you call offending my readers and me beneficial?" "Did you realise who's been offending you and your readers? Some kind of entity that set itself up under the cover of Russia's Orthodox Church, and it provoked a feeling in you of being offended?" "Yeah. Well, that's good. Now it's not just with your mind, but with the feelings that you and many of your readers have experienced, that you can understand how your forebears were defamed in the eyes of their descendants, how they were called pagans and for centuries were blamed for all sorts of misdeeds they never committed. You're not the only one who's tried to write about this. There have been quite a few historians over the years who have tried to refute this slander, but in vain. What's happening now is that the same tactics are being used all over again to discredit people who really want to reach out and touch God's creations. There are quite a few of these people now, and they can feel by their own experience how their forebears were smeared like that. The souls of their distant ancestors are finding renewed strength through those being slandered in our time. Their forebears of yesterday will act like guardian angels protecting their descendants of today. Believe me, there can be no kinder and brighter force, no way, than that which is emerging in the world right now. If this is coming about for people today, if some invisible thread is capable of joining today's son together with his parent who lived 2,000 years ago, and if the thread that joins them together can be extended, then today's man will be joined together with God, his original parent. Grandfather was clearly trying to restrain his excitement as he told me this. I felt I needed further clarification. Maybe what you say is very important, I observed, but, you see, there's been quite a bit of delay with the creation of family domains. But just maybe such a delay is necessary to give people the opportunity to figure things out and co-create a design for the future. Maybe it's all turning out rather unexpectedly, as though the first book began with just simple actions. Then, with the second came readers' clubs, and now with the Book of Kin out, the family chronicle has come along. These words made Grandfather laugh again, and he immediately cut himself short and said with a kindly smile, "My granddaughter was clearly having a fun time with the family chronicle. Maybe it was to comfort you and your readers somehow. But hey, look how she arranged it so that Russia's supreme rulers and the patriarch of the church supported her idea. Even if it's just one of her ideas. No mention of her philosophy, or maybe they simply didn't understand it. Their names will not go down in the annals of old. They're too wishy-washy, not very bold. People will be eternally remembered in the annals of old, who are right now, at least in their thoughts, creating their own God-pleasing domains. Whether they themselves chose the idea, or whether it chose them, that doesn't matter anymore. Eternity awaits those who are creating a future for their children, and not just for their children, but for themselves too. For the first time on the earth, man who was born for eternity will come back to eternity. Vladimir, I'm just beginning to understand my granddaughter's achievements. It is possible that many secrets of life have been revealed to her, but there is one which even the high priests were not fully aware of. All they ever knew before was that human life could be eternal. Part of this knowledge allowed them, for example, to be reincarnated over and over. But this reincarnation was never complete, and this is why their achievements did not bring joy either to themselves or to mankind. Now I am confident, and believe me, that Anastasia has full knowledge of the creations needed to attain eternity. You might ask her about this and try to understand. And if she can come up with words that a great many people will understand, worlds worthy of a God-man will be unfurled to their thought. Take a walk over to my granddaughter Vladimir and have a talk with her. At the moment she is sitting under the cedar down by the lakeshore. There may be significant revealings in the world all around when the words of eternity are found, which are comprehensible to both mind and feelings. The aspirations of the great awakened civilization will whirl upward The whole galaxy will feel these great aspirations and will await with shivers of anticipation the touch of those capable of giving to the planets a new and marvellous life. Go, and do not be slow. I had already taken several steps when I was stopped by Anastasia's grandfather crying out, "Vladimir! It's high time that you and Anastasia's followers started your own motherland party." "A party? What kind of party?" "I'm telling you, that's what you should call it. The Motherland Party." End of chapter 12.